Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Dante St. James. We're hosting this particular webinar for you. It'll all be about getting your business online instantly, or let's just say sensibly, as instantly as we possibly can. A little bit about me. I work with a number of different people with Facebook Australia and New Zealand as a community trainer, a digital marketing associate, and a media planner. And I go around lots of different places in Australia, although with recent events, that hasn't been possible. So we've been doing a lot of online things, and I've got some little places for you to go where you can follow what we're doing as a group and as a team with Facebook a little bit later on. Also work with Google and Info Exchange's Digital Springboard Digital Literacy Program. There's a lot of digital words in there. Basically just also delivering a lot of free and very low cost stuff to help people to get the best out of their online presence, whether they're business, not-for-profit communities or whatever. We help them to get as much done as possible. I work with the Be Connected network, which is a connection, a group of businesses all around Australia and not-for-profits who are helping out to people to get online, particularly older Australians. I work alongside the Essential 8 from the Australian Cyber Security Centre through their Stay Smart Online project. And just because I got bored one day, I did my accredited advisor certificate for the MBN business program as well. So thank you for joining me this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are in Australia. I know we're across a lot of different time zones, so thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. Questions you can ask anywhere in the chat window. So if you've got a specific burning question you simply must ask, please feel free to go ahead and ask that question. I do welcome them, and there's going to be some things that might be a little bit maybe a little bit different that you haven't heard before, or there might be some things you'd like to clarify, particularly when you've working with lots of different digital advisors and a lot of different business advisors. You get different pieces of information from everywhere, so hopefully I can help bring some of that together for you. So what we're going to cover today as part of this getting your business instantly online is a little bit about getting a website. So making sure you have your own little piece of property online, not just somebody else's. We're going to cover a little bit about making sure you get yourself listed on Google. So using things like Google My Business and various other tools to ensure that people can find your business. And then finally, we're going to talk about being present on social media, which is all about developing your presences on Facebook and Instagram, and particularly also on LinkedIn, which has become an incredibly important place, particularly if you're people who are dealing with businesses. So if you're a business to business, B2BB. So we'll start off with the point of getting a website. Now that can feel a little bit scary for some people when they're thinking about how do I even start the process. It just seems like there's a lot to do when it comes to getting a website. And you're right, it can be really complicated and it can be really expensive. So I tend to break it down for a small business that's looking to go into this world as quickly and as easily as possible, is have a think about how much time do you have to do this kind of thing yourself? And then how much money have you got up front to spend on a website? That's actually really expensive because it can be very expensive. But if you're the kind of person who has a lot of time in your hands, you've been in isolation or quarantine, and you're looking for a project, this might be the ideal thing for you to get you going and to start a new project. Building a website can be a lot of fun. I first learned to build my first website back in 1996, and building websites was very, very different back then. It was kind of a cowboy territory. You didn't quite know what any of us are doing. And it then grew for a lifetime love of it, of actually helping not just individuals, but now businesses get websites that really help to lift, well, to meet the objectives that they're looking for. So do you have the time to spend on building a website for yourself? That will certainly reduce the amount of money you're going to pay for a website. Secondly, looking at the price of a website. So how much money have you got up front to spend on it? Do you want to engage someone to do that for you? Or do you want to try and do this all by yourself? And we've got a couple of examples of some ways you can do that without a little bit too much pressure on you. And then, can you grow your website? So if your business starts to grow, if your business starts to get a bit bigger, can your website get bigger with you too? So we're not going to look at necessarily the most highly technical ways to be able to get a website. What we want to do is put it back in your hands and say, what are the things that you can do to most easily to get a website for your business? And some of those ideas may be Looking at things like Google Sites. Now, it's not the favorite of web developers out there because it's not made for them. It's made for small businesses like us. It's made to be as easy as possible for you to build your own little presence online. It's very limited, but it is really simple to set up, and you can add a domain name on there. It's not always the easiest process to do that bit. That's where you might have to get your 14-year-old daughter or son to give you a hand with that, or to reach out to the ASBAS Digital Solutions program, which can actually give you a little bit of help with that at a very low cost. Then another idea, if you're looking to put a shop online, you can actually start for free and up to $500 for your first transactions with the combination of Weebly and Square. Now, they are separate businesses, separate companies, but some time ago, Weebly and Square, they hooked together and they said, we're going to have the first way to plug in the Square, those little squares you often see in the markets and little cafes, to hook that into Weebly as well. So you can start that from free. It is quite a simple web builder, one of the simplest ones out there. And you can pay as your site grows up. So as you get bigger, then you can add things like a domain name, which is a paid part of the service. You can add additional pages. You can even then start to add much higher value things. For a lot of people like personal trainers or very small businesses that don't necessarily need to go into a great depth of branding, they just need to get something right online right now. This has been a really good, solid platform to be able to do that because there's no web hosting involved. There's no domain names involved unless you want to buy one later on. And it gives you probably the quickest, simplest online store to develop. And then there's the big kahuna in the room, WordPress. It is by far the biggest platform of them all. It does have a service called WordPress.com that does allow you to get in there. It's a really good system. It is complex, but it is infinitely flexible. It does take a little bit of time to learn. And anybody who's ever had a site hacked would know that sometimes it takes a lot of maintenance as well. So quite often, this is the most common sort of platform that a web developer would come to you with. So most digital agencies and freelancers, they work in WordPress. Now there's a lot of other ones. There's things like Wix, which is fairly simple again, but can get a lot more complicated as well. And these are paid platforms that include often the domain, if you're going to pay a year in advance. Will include all the web hosting for you, and then a builder that allows you to grab the pieces you want to grab or work from a theme that then lays everything out for you that you can just adjust the way you want it to be. And another one is Squarespace. And I saw we've had a question in there from one of our attendees asking if I'd recommend Squarespace if you're building on your own. If you're going to start building it into an e-commerce process. Now, Squarespace 5 years ago was horrific. Now it is a powerhouse. It's probably in the top 6 of all the web builders on the planet. It's very well regarded, very well advertised. And what we're starting to see is a lot of people who are graphic designers are now starting to pivot their businesses to add a little bit of Squarespace web building in there as well, which is a great way to get a lot more people on the platform. It's not a hugely expensive product to do, but it does come with a cost. But it does also include a lot of themes and a lot of layouts that make it a lot easier if you lay those things out. So if you're talking about the learning curve for these things, your Google Sites for absolute beginners who are just starting out and just need to get something online. They don't necessarily need a domain name. They just need something online that they can point people to. Then your Weebly and Square combination, also very simple for e-commerce. And I would say that we could very easily say that Squarespace is just slightly more complicated than that is. And as well with Wix. Wix is also very, very similar to Squarespace, perhaps a little easier to mess up because Squarespace is a very rigid format that allows you to build things within very tight confines. But Wix allows you to get a lot more creative. There's a lot of web developers and myself who works with WordPress and Joomla and a lot of platforms like that, who we used to, be very critical of platforms like Squarespace and Wix, but they have come a very, very long way. In fact, just recently we built a Wix website for somebody, which is a very unusual thing for us, but they felt comfortable with it. And we were worried about the search engine optimization of that. Turns out we had nothing to worry about. Wix's websites are super fast and have lots of tools that help you to build that whole idea of building a site that's fast, mobile friendly, and able to be loaded on just about any device really quickly and really efficiently. So they're all very good. There's no really bad platforms on there, as long as it's something that you can test out and have a go. Now I think it might be time we take a look at some of these platforms, particularly at something like Google, not Google My Business, Google Sites. Now, if you do have, I just have a question, sorry, from Raven, who asked, is Square compatible only with Weebly? This was a question that only 6 months ago would have been, yes, it's only Square that is compatible with Weebly. Now we've actually got a case where Square have made themselves available to a lot of other platforms. They're not available in Shopify yet, but they are available for payments, I believe, on Squarespace now. I know with WooCommerce on WordPress, they are definitely available. So I installed one just 2 weekends ago that's using Square. Now it can take a little bit of setup and a little bit of configuration, but there are plugins that go into WooCommerce on WordPress that will allow you to do that. So they've opened up their system to be able to be used with other systems now. The easiest, the most simple compatibility is with Square and Weebly though. So what I've got on my screen now is Google Sites. Now everybody has access to Google Sites if you've got a Google account. So I'm signed in my Google account up the top right here. And what I've done is gone in to see I have no Google Sites in there at all. It's got the option to start with a blank site. I can have a few of these different designs. They've actually got a template gallery that I can choose from to see what is it that I would like to build. So if I'm building something, say, for an event, it might be a very common thing to do. You want to just have an event that's very, very quickly is rolled out. Let's get that to come up. It's taking a little slower. We had some internet problems here yesterday, so hopefully everything's holding together quite nicely. As you can see, there's a little bit of a theme for everybody in there. So whether you've got a photographer using a portfolio, if you're an IT business, you might have a help center template as well. If you're a restaurant, there's a template there for you as well. Now, these are not the most infinitely flexible sites to work with, but they give you a really simple, solid block format. So you just slide things in. So like things like images can just go straight on in. You don't have to worry about your images not fitting correctly. You don't have to worry about images having to be cropped. It will do that sort of work for you. Much the same way that things like, Wix and Squarespace will do as well. So it looks like it's having a little bit of trouble loading up. Let's try that again. And we'll try the event. As I said, we're having a little bit of a problem with our internet here recently. We were one of the many businesses in Australia who were affected by Aussie broadband going down between Adelaide and Darwin, where I am. Great, so here we have a really simple layout. So our event, which we're gonna call post-COVID party. We're gonna put a date in there. So it's gonna be running from Monday to Friday. So you just go in there and you basically just replace the words that are there with the words you want to have there. And then I'll give it a name. Let's just say post-COVID. And the older ones amongst us will know what this means. We've seen the Elvis movie. Post-COVID clam bake. It's going to pick a beach. Let's go Cottesloe Beach in Perth. Haven't been there for a very long time, but I really would like to get there again. And as you can see, they've already got everything laid out in such a way that you'll be able to just add what you want in the common format for what an event might be. So we can go into this photo, and it's actually prompted to say, hey, you want to change that image? Yeah, sure. I want to select an image either from my accounts images that I can pick. It's got a bunch of like gallery images that you might want to choose that they've already had in there for you. So I'm going to throw that one in there. And then I can change colors as well. So at the moment, we've got a lot of this yellow going on. I'm like, yellow is probably not my favorite color to be putting on a website. So I can pop over here to the section background, and I can change between different emphases. I even put an image in that background if I like. So I might want to see, okay, what are the different backgrounds I can have? Well, that's gone white, which is not particularly helpful because my text is also white. Or I can, basically you just pop all around and you just change. Now, I just had a question from Kylie's asking, will they be able to access recording after the webinar? I do believe that will be the case. It will be sent out to all attendees that you can watch this. Just give us, maybe the weekend to be able to get that out to you. but it definitely will be available. And you can change things like fonts, the heading size. So for those of us who know all about Word and the ability to have like big headings, small headings, H1, H2, H3, that kind of thing, we can change the basis of those headings. So I can go to big heading, make it bold if I want, and basically build out the website I want to build out in just blocks like this. Now, if I don't want any of these blocks, I just simply get rid of them. Delete, delete, delete. Don't want the speakers in there. Delete again. And then I might want to go, okay, this background, we're going to make this one a regular one. And then I can insert any photos I like to insert wherever I like. So I can select an image either from my drive, from Google image searches. So you've got to be careful that you're selecting things that are not going to be terrible, not going to cause you to have massive problems with copyright. So if we go, say, Perth, choose a picture of Perth and insert. And then it's just going to insert that picture in there any moment now. And there we have a picture already cropped to the space that we want to fill it into. So we haven't had to do any cropping. It's just able to build it straight in. But if I said, a couple of these spaces I didn't need, but I'd like to have some more spaces I add to this particular page. Let's delete some more. It's a very long page. I can insert one of these block layouts from over on the right. So let's just say I want to insert this one in here. And then I simply fill out the details that I want to have. So I can fill in my image. I can insert a YouTube video as well. It allows me to insert calendar items from my Google Calendar if I have that connected as well. Or I can even insert a map. So if I want to insert a map of where my business is, let's just say, I'm just going to guess there's a bakery. I'm going to pick a place that I know. So the Pratt Bakery is a place I go to often for pies. In there goes our little map, and it's there. So we can say where we are. So it is probably the simplest web builder on the planet, and it's free, completely free. The catch is you don't get a domain name included with this, but once we save all this, we can then actually add a domain name onto it. So we can add things like Google Analytics and what we call a custom URL. So if you want to have a domain name that you've already bought somewhere else, you can say, yep, I can add that domain name in here. And then as we go through that process, it tells you what you need to do with whoever you bought your domain name from, if it's GoDaddy or NetRegistry or Crazy Domains, whatever it is. They'll be able to give you then a code that you'll be able to put in there that points your domain to the Google Sites server. Now, a lot of people who get more technical about these things will say, well, what's the SEO ability of this? What is the perhaps the downside of getting something on a free service? Well, really, it's just that it's going to put things like a hosted on Google Sites link at the bottom, which you can't see because my Macintosh stuff is in the way, but it will have a small credit to Google. So it's hosted on Google Sites at the bottom, but otherwise it's going to look like any other website on the internet. There's no real catch to it. It's not given any extra ability to index just because it's on Google servers, but you also won't be penalized for being on here as either. The only downside we really get is some people get a little bit lazy with these websites and they go, oh, you know what, I just want to, just do the bare minimum, and then they never return to that website again. And that's where problems you have with search engine optimization. But this would have to be by far the quickest, most simple place to build a website. And if you're looking to build something for just a few people to see, you don't want the world to see. After all, it's an event, it's a party that I'm having. You can then share this site to only be visible to certain people with Google accounts. So you can make it private. So only your friends who you've invited to be able to see this site will be able to see this site if they're logged into Google. And most of us tend to be logged into Google when we're using Chrome or using any sort of Google services. So there's a lot more depth I could go into with that. I won't go too deep into it because we do have to move on to Weebly, which has that Square integration that works really, really well. Now, just going through their site, you can see that it's not necessarily an exclusive Weebly Square integration right now. Square can be integrated into other systems now, but for a while it was the only way you could integrate those little Square units that you can see there on the bench. It allows you to process your payments really fast through Weebly's own online store system, and your first $500 of payments are accepted online for free without any fees. So you're not going to get any sort of credit card fees in with that. It's going to make it a lot quicker for you to be able to test and give it a run and see how it works. So you're building your website in a very similar system to what you're doing with Google Sites. It's very much add a theme, change bits here, change bits there, and then you can integrate Square as the payment processor into your Weebly site, as well as PayPal and all those other sort of, I think they have an eWay integration as well for those who have eWay, or if you're using something like Stripe, it will also be able to integrate in here. But for Square, this is often a really good one for really small fashion businesses or really small cafes or even market stall holders, because you're able to use what you're already using, and so many people are using those little Square units with their phones and tablets, that it allows you to use that same account that you've been selling live to within the market in with a website. So you don't have to double your bookkeeping, you don't have to double your reports, it all goes in one place. So it's a lot easier. There's got a question from Tash about having a free Google website with links to your existing main domain. Does that increase traffic to your existing main domain website? So this is a very, very often argued thing. We're getting into the deep stuff of SEO here, and I'll answer as quickly as I can. It's not regarded as a particularly authoritative link through to your site. So Google will recognize that it is a backlink, but it won't recognize it as having a lot of domain authority. Even though it's on their own domain, they have ways of knowing in their algorithm the difference between coming from a site which might be on their domain that has very high authority and your site which is often just built for just generating backlinks. It is really good for generating backlinks, but those backlinks won't be a very high authority. Teresa just asked, if you already have Square and you want to use Weebly, will you still get the first $500 without fees? I believe that's only for people who have only ever, who are starting from scratch now. They don't already have the Square reader. They're just going straight in to having Square for the first time. But good question, Teresa. Thank you very much for that. So as we look at Weebly, it is very much a similar kind of builder as what Google Sites is, but it is a free service to get started. So you can get started for $0. And as you then add things like domain names and whatnot, that's when you start to generate a little bit more. So we won't go through that setup part, but it is a very simple website builder. And it's been around a very long time in much the same way as Wix and Squarespace have been. And then we got the big kahuna, the one that 36% of the World Wide Web is built on, that's WordPress. And WordPress is infinitely scalable. It is infinitely growable. It's infinitely able to do so many things. You can add so many different bits and pieces. Like you can plug in your MailChimp. You can, run a MailChimp free system in the back of your own. You can have your own email ordering systems. You can have WooCommerce as your selling platform. There's so many options with WordPress, but it's not a tool for beginners who don't have time to spend. So if you've got tons and tons of time that you want to dig into it, or you've got friends who've done this as well, or even if you want to go along some of the way and you want to then get a little bit of help, things like the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program delivered around Australia by Business Station Incorporated, that's a way of being able to deliver some sort of help, I guess, to help you with things like WordPress. In fact, I've got a workshop coming up, with a webinar coming up with Business Station soon that is going to give us the opportunity to show you how to administer a WordPress website so you can keep that thing running. So tons of different webinars like that. We had an anonymous attendee saying that if you get a Square set up, how do you get a Square set up if you don't already have one? So depending on where you are in Australia, Officeworks do sell them, and I think JB Hi-Fi sell them as well. Otherwise, you can go to squareup.com and you can order those online. So it's SquareUp, like the word square, up.com, and you'll be able to then get to all the different places that either stock them or you can order one online and be sent to you. Good question. Thank you very much for that. So WordPress, I'm a massive fan of. I build most websites in my agency on WordPress, but the limitation is that they require maintenance. So if they're installed on web hosting, they require that you go in and update things like plugins. You go and update things like your themes, making sure everything's secure and doing the right thing. Because while 36% of the web is built on WordPress, they also have a larger than normal amount of people trying to hack those websites, because quite often you buy a WordPress website from, say, a web developer, and they don't include things like maintenance in there. So it can go for a couple of years of having no security updates, and then a hacker finds a vulnerability, and next thing you know, you've got a website that's unusable by you. So with WordPress, think of it like a puppy. It's not for Christmas, it's for a lifetime. You got to make sure that you're willing to learn how WordPress works, and or at least willing to go and get the help you need from people who are very good at WordPress. And there's tons of them. It's the most supported web platform on the planet. And it doesn't matter whether you're in Queensland, Western Australia, and Northern Territory, there are tons of people who are really, really good and really, really helpful. They've got a very good user support community. You can ask tons of questions, and there's like literally millions of videos on YouTube showing you how to do almost everything that you might want to do on WordPress. So it is a lot of fun to learn if you've got some time to learn it. So as I return to our presentation, just be one moment. As we've taken a look at those platforms, now we can start looking at getting yourself listed on Google. And with listing on Google, there's three main ways you do that. There's through what we call Google My Business, which is like a free business directory listing. There are Google Ads, which is pretty much paying your way to the top. It's not particularly cheap, but it is a way that you can help to get a little higher up there. There's also search engine optimization, SEO, which you might get lots of those spammy emails from places all over the place asking you to help you with your SEO. It takes time, and it often takes money as well, optimizing your website in order to be found in the right way. So yeah, if you could just consider, again, whether you've got the time and the money to do these different things. Google My Business is free, so that's not going to cost you anything. It's barely going to cost you any time. Google Ads are a way for you to pay your way to the top, I guess, in a way that in the same way as that you used to pay your way to the top in, say, the Yellow Pages in the very old days. And then where you've got the SEO side of things, this is where you're able to do lots of little tweaks, lots of tiny little tweaks to your website to be able to get yourself together, to get more people to link back to you, to get Google to be more attracted to your website, because the content that's in there is better connected through to what people are actually looking for on Google. I just had a question from Jay asking it finds it hard to set up a Google ad. Yeah, it can be a little bit hard, and thankfully we've actually got another webinar coming up in this month that's going to be showing you how to start with the very, very basics, the very, very beginning of setting up a Google ad campaign. So we cover almost everything in Aspas Digital Solutions. We've got lots and lots of people with lots and lots of great skills. I'm actually hosting that one myself, which is why I know about it. So hopefully that will answer your question, Jay. Moving back through, getting found on Google, that first step, going for Google My Business. This is free, and if you're not on there and you own a business, oh my goodness, that is the one that you're going to be absolutely mad if you don't do. It's the easiest thing to do. It's like getting your own place on Google, your own business profile on Google. It allows you to upload things like your address, your business details, the things you sell, all the photos that are associated with your business. Sorry, Jay, I just saw your question come up on when that's on. If you just check out businessstation.com.au, you'll be able to see all the details about when their workshops are on and what times those things are on. They've got a link through to the Eventbrite page from there. Okay, getting found on Google part 2 is the paid way. Those Google ads gets you indexed quickly because you're paying. I know that they say that you don't get indexed on Facebook and on Google any quicker by paying for ads, but funnily enough, everyone who I've done it for seems to get indexed a lot quicker. And that may also be because when you're paying for ads, you're paying for traffic to come through to your website. And when you're paying for traffic to come to your website, that's more people coming through. More traffic means a better ranking in Google. So you're paying to rank better over a period of time. There are some catches to that though. Of course, you have to qualify for Google Ads. You can't just advertise any old thing. It has to be something that they're okay with advertising. And you can't necessarily advertise for mangoes when people are searching for, I don't know, essential oils. There are limitations that come with Google Ads. They can get very expensive, but just recently we've found we've been getting a lot of great results for electricians because a lot of electricians haven't been doing any work due to COVID-19. They've been pulling back a lot because they thought that there's no work there. So there's, especially at the moment, there's Google Ads I'm finding in most areas of Australia are actually running a bit cheaper than they normally would and getting a lot more reach. So definitely worth another look if you haven't been able to do that for a while. And then there's the hard way. It's earning your place using search engine optimization. Now, I say the hard way, but I actually really enjoy it. It tickles my competitive edge, I guess. I really like to do things that put me, up against other businesses, and I get really competitive when I have a client who's a Sparky and I want to help them get ahead of the other Sparkies in town. It's fun. It's like a game of can you catch me if you can. You do something that which raises your ranking, they do something that raises their ranking. But that does, excuse me, take a sip of my iced coffee. It is a very expensive way to do it, and it does take time. Search engine optimization is like we said before with a puppy. It's not for Christmas, it's for a lifetime. You can do some work to get yourself better positioned for search engine optimization. But ultimately, what you really need to do is you need to always be doing something with it, always be doing something to add more to your search engine optimization. So I'll show you an example of one of the systems that we use in here that shows you whether the search engine optimization may or may not be for you, but there are many other easier ways to do it as well. So let's take a look at some of these ideas. If we're looking at Google My Business, it's just at business.google.com. And now if you have an account already, you've got your Google My Business account, well done. We might even look at some things you can do to add a little bit of extra juice to your Google My Business profile. And there are always Google My Business webinars happening through the ASBAS Digital Solutions program as well. So make sure you just check out businessstation.com.au to see where all those different things are. Because in this COVID world, we can deliver these webinars from anywhere. Who knows? I'm in Darwin, and most of you are probably in Queensland and Western Australia. So if you want to find and manage a business, let's just say that we're going to start one up. We're going to call our business My Little Pizza Shack. And in My Little Pizza Shack, it's going to ask me, do I agree to the terms of service? They're pretty stock standard. You can have a read them if you're that kind of person who likes to read those things. The business category, we can say pizza. Yeah, pizza delivery, pizza takeaway, pizza restaurant. I'm kind of all those things. But it only lets me accept one, but it does say that I can change and add a few more later. Lisa asked you a question about WordPress. Is it possible to do much SEO on the premium plan on WordPress? Yeah, you absolutely can, Lisa. I'm hoping to do a bit more SEO stuff later in May and early June. So we'll actually have a series all about SEO, what all the different tools are that you can use, because there are a lot of tools and a lot of techniques that will help you. And we'll have a look at one of those tools that I use just after this as well. So hopefully that can be helpful. So I'm saying I'm a pizza restaurant, but I can add those other categories later. It asked me then, do I want a location where customers can visit me, like a shop or an office? I'm going to say, yes, I do have a shop. It's at a certain address. And it's going to ask me what that address is. So if I'm going to go pop over my maps, I'm going to go, it's at 4 Douglas Street. It's in Ludmilla in the NT. It's giving away my address to all these people. Please don't send hate mail. And it said, yeah, okay. Do I also serve customers outside this location? And it's asked me, for example, if I visit people or I deliver to my customers. I'm a pizza shop. Of course I deliver. Yes, I also serve them outside my location. What that's telling Google is that, well, if you're serving people outside your immediate area, who are they? Who are they? So I might serve people outside in various areas all around the Darwin metropolitan area. I use the word metropolitan very loosely. I'll pick out some suburbs that are around about. There's Nightcliff. I say those are kind of the basic areas that I'll deliver my pizzas to. I can add my phone number, so I'm just going to make one up. So let's just say 0889671788, which is my office number. The current website, I can say, well, we don't have a website right now. Now, I might already have a website elsewhere, and I don't really want a website at all. I'm doing all my work, say, on Uber Eats, and I'm doing all of my promotion on my Facebook page. So I think, no, I don't need a website. But if you do have a website, put it in there. You can also get a free website that's based on all this information we're entering in. So just like that Google Sites that we did before, this little sexy thing here, they've also got a version of this, a little more dumbed down, in Google My Business that allows you to build a website that's based on all this information. So it's going to put in things like your phone number, your address, the map of where you're located, the photos that you load up, and you can post updates into Google the same way you can post updates into any social media. So if you're posting things to Facebook or to LinkedIn or even to Instagram, you can also make posts just like that into Google. And what that forms in Google My Business is part of your Google My Business website. So this is another way to get yourself a free website. And I often say, you know, don't, unless you're very, very tight about your brand being a certain way and everyone must come in through this one gateway that's your very best website. If you're a little bit more loose with that sort of stuff and you just want people to find you however they're going to find you, then it doesn't hurt to have a few different websites for your one business. You can have your amazing WordPress website, which is the high-end one that you want everyone to land at. But then you could also have a Google My Business site, which has more information about your business. And then you can have another site through Google Sites, which is all about your business as well, but with a different perspective. Say, for instance, you have 3 different kinds of customers. Your higher end customer, you might want to use those on your WordPress site. That might be where you lead all your ads on Facebook through to. Or you may have, you know, a lower end customer who's not going to spend as much. You can send them through your Google site as a landing page or as an alternate place to go to. Or even if your business has 3 separate brands, 3 separate names, rather than confusing them all on the one website, separate them out now that you've got a few free options you can use. So I won't show you through that too much, but let's just say I don't need a website in this case. Do I want recommendations for your business? I would say always select yes on this one for the simple reason it can't hurt to have Google tell you how to do things better. And then once you manage that, it's saying, okay, my little pizza shack, I'm going to finish it and it's going to ask me to verify this business. Now, my problem is that I'm not located at my business at the moment. So it's going to have to send me a postcard via mail. Now, what they say is up to 6 days to arrive. I would take that with a very large grain of salt. I'd take that with a brick of salt. I've never had something arrive in 6 days, no matter where I've lived in Australia. So that can take up to 4 weeks to get to a remote area like Darwin. To Perth, you're getting closer to around about a week and a half. Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, you're looking at around about 2 to 3 weeks for that to arrive. So the 6 days thing, it's not going to come. It's going to be a little like sealed paper envelope, and you just rip off the sides and it's got a code in it that you then get to put in. So it's giving you the opportunity to say, yes, send it to me via this address. I'm not going to finish this because I don't obviously want to register a fake pizza shack at my house. Otherwise people will be showing up to get my famous pepperoni pizza and be sorely disappointed when I'm just reselling Domino's. And then if I click mail there, that will then allow me to go and have that sent to my address, my postal address. It can't be a PO box. It has to be a physical address. And this can be a problem in some more rural and regional locations. So if you work from home, you don't wish customers know the address, which is a question that just came through as well. Thank you for that one. It's you can actually say that you don't serve people at your location. So earlier where we were saying, do you have a location where you want to be from, where you want to operate your business from? You can actually say no there, and then you select the areas that you service rather than being at a specific shopfront location. You still have to send the postcard by mail to where you are physically at, but that address is not going to be not going to be publicly posted on Google anywhere. All it's going to say is that you serve this area, and I'll draw a map around the area that you serve. So for instance, you're selling essential oils and you're selling them all over south of the river in Perth. Well, then you say, okay, these are the suburb ranges or the postcode ranges that I'm going to serve. And then you can then say, you might live north of river, but you're actually serving south of river. It doesn't matter. You select the areas that you want to have. You don't actually have to have a physical address listed on Google for people to go to. So it's very, very vital if you're working from home. You don't necessarily want perfect strangers rocking up at your door. So that's the Google My Business way in. It's a really simple process to do. And once you do have your Google My Business, I'll log in to a real account that I've got here. And hopefully it will show me. Of course, it's going to ask me to enter in a password, isn't it? I bet we go to one that I know the password of. So basically what I'll do, it'll give me a list of all the businesses that I've got listed. And then I can go to say, I want to make sure I've got another version here that I can show you. Let's just say, look for a business called ClickStarter in Darwin. This is the bit of presentation I didn't prepare. So over here, this gives you this. it gives you this whole block over on the right. So that's all the photos that I've loaded up for my particular business, the reviews that have shown up for my business, the writing that I put down about it, and also any posts that I might have put on there. And I haven't put a post on there for a while, but the posts allow me to do that either through my phone, which I've got the Google My Business app on, or I can do that through business.google.com. And when I log in, it gives me a prompt to be able to put different posts in. And one little thing that you're going to be calling back on this probably again and again is that with Google My Business posts, no two posts are equal. So a post is just a photo with some writing. That's going to last you 7 days. So after 7 days, it gets shoved off and nobody can see it again except for you. If you've got an offer, say for instance, a discount or a coupon or something like that, or you're just simply saying that from now until the 31st of December 2020, if you order anything online, you'll get a free widget. Well, then that's great. You make that offer expire on the 31st of December and it will always show in this block over on the right on Google. And same way, it'll also show as a post in Google results on your phone. If I could bring it up on my phone, I would. I'll probably see if I can try and drag across my other Google stuff onto this screen so you can see it. So you can see an example. Now, I'm not 100% sure that you can see this one, but this is me logged into an account where I've got access to my Google My Business, profile. So it's actually asking me that Labor Day is on Monday here in the Territory, and I believe in WA as well. No, Queensland's got it, not WA. So you can't see it. Let me just quickly stop my share so you can see my face. Hey, how you going? And I'll share the right screen for you. Won't be a sec. It is this one here. All right, now you'll be able to see it. Much, much better. Just let me know, Jay, if you can see that. Just give me, yep, thank you very much. So, bit of teamwork. Thanks for that. Now, this gives me a different picture of Google. It shows me if I'm open on Labor Day. I go, yeah, I actually am. I'm working on Labor Day. So I can say, what time am I working? 8 to 6 looks good. Yep, let's put that in. So that's actually saying that if anybody is going to be viewing this and they want to talk to me on Monday, which is a public holiday in where I am, well, then that's fine. They will be able to get that from me. Cancel like that. It also lets me know that I can tell people, it gives me tips along the way. It gives me an instant way into ads on Google, which I'm not necessarily looking for. Or I can do things like sharing a form on my website that allows people to easily leave reviews for me. Now, reviews are kind of in a weird place with Google during COVID. It gives me results of how my website's doing. So it's gone down a little bit lately because we've pulled some of our advertising back. But we're actually starting up a new campaign next week, which will increase that again. It's a really quick stop place. It actually asks me, have I added any interior photos? Oh, what do I want to do? I want to add a post. What's this add a post? So I'm going to add a post. Now my post could be anything like these previous ones that I put, which are basically from my blog posts. I've added little links to my blog. So you click on learn more, that will go through to my blog. So much the same way you would do if you were posting on Facebook or posting on LinkedIn. I can put offers in there. So in an offer, this is an offer that I had running till the end of January. So that one expired at the end of January. This would show the entire time on my profile. So over in here, down in this section here, that was showing my offer for the whole entire time that happened. And the same thing can go for events. There's lots of places you can post events now. Your events will show. So I used to post a whole bunch of my different kinds of webinars I was running and workshops I was running that allowed me to post a link to those events that would last right through until the 23rd of January in this case, when the event was on, over on this side panel on Google as well. So Google really rewards the more you do these things. They really like it when you're adding more content onto their platform because it makes their platform much more useful. So if someone's looking for me and they can find everything they want to find about my business in there, then they'll be able to find what they need to find quickly and easily without ever quoting through to my website. I don't necessarily need them to land on my website. What I really want them to do is to think good things about my business, give me a call, request a quote, drop into my office, call me on the phone, send me an appointment through my website. I don't really necessarily care if they land on my homepage. I just want them to convert into a customer as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. So that's what Google My Business does allow you to do. It makes that whole process a lot easier. So thanks for bearing with me while I was sharing that screen. I'll come back out of that one into our original one now. And we're back. So that's Google My Business. The next bit will be using what we call SEO. And this is search engine optimization. It's a whole bunch of things that you can do that help your website to load higher in the list. Now taking a business that I've done a little bit of work with in the past called the rainflorist.com.au, a florist in the northern suburbs of Darwin. Now what we've done is we've said we want to be found for certain things. So florist near me in a local sense, they're now positioned at 15 in there, actually a little bit higher than that now locally. How many people are searching in our area for that florist near me every month is 90. We can see that people have visited us now. So really, really recently, we've had 3 people visit. The projected visits is another 2. And it gives me lots of information about what you can't see that one. Oh yeah, you can. It gives me a lot more information about the things I'm looking for. So if I'm looking to get this florist near me as a keyword that I want to be found for more, if that was my business, I set it in this particular system, which is called Ali AI. It was one of those cheap ones through a thing called AppSumo. If you've never used AppSumo, APPSUMO, it is a way, it's kind of like Groupon and Scoopon and Catch of the Day and all those things, but for software. So it gives you lots of different systems that allow you to do this. So it's APPSUMO, great tool for getting cheap software that helps you do a lot of things. And this is one of those ones I got. It's not available anymore, unfortunately, but other ones like it often come up. So in this case, I go, if I want to be found more for that term in Google, it's giving me a whole bunch of tasks that I need to do. And this is where SEO gets really complex and really time consuming. Because it's saying I need to go to my website and add a headline with florist near me. Okay, I can do that, it's easy. I need to add florist near me to my meta description on my website. So that's the description that Google pulls to say, what is your site about? It's telling me I've got too many H1 tags. So you're getting into a little bit of technical stuff on the page now. It's saying my website, or this particular website, loads too slow. It needs to load faster. So it's saying decrease the amount of time that it takes to get a page back for people to see. I've got JavaScript page loading issues that it wants me to do. So there's a whole bunch of little technical things. But then it gives me other little tasks, such as, an outreach here saying, this person here, what search terms would you use to find a local flower shop near you? So this is an article that I can click onto. It's going to take me out to Quora, which is quite a great place for generating backlinks to your site if you wanted to get a little bit more action into your website. It's quite a high authority, and it's saying there's an article here which is called, what search terms would you use to find a flower shop near you? So it's saying, okay, make sure you read that article, then write a comment that adds something to that article, adds some substance. That's not just saying, you don't need to find a local flower shop because I sell flowers, here's my link. Nothing like that. It's just adding a little bit of expertise and a little bit of zhuzh to that conversation that's already going on. And then if it's appropriate, you can put a link in for your website to that at the end of it. So it's a really, really good way of generating a little bit of extra. But that's one of many, many, many tasks. As you can see down here, we're up to 7 pages of tasks. So as I go further and further, it's giving me all opportunities to reach out to other websites and put comments in and to put different, there's so much you can do. That's just one keyword. Then I've got all my other keywords. So florist near me was just one of them. I've got things like local florist, fresh flowers. It's showing me where these things rank in terms of where they are. So it's saying it's in Australia and I've made it rank in a particular local area. So it's saying, okay, just within Darwin, I want to know how all these work. So if I'm searching for businesses that are owned by other people, it's a lot of work to do. There's so much in there. And in this case, we've got tons of sites over in the left that we're working with. So this is something that SEO agencies, we do a lot of this kind of thing, but it is not cheap. The average cost of that for us, and we're considered to be very low cost, is about $700 a month to do all those tasks for all those clients. And this is why when small businesses come into the world of SEO and Google, they go, why can't I seem to beat them? Why can't I seem to rank higher? It's because you've got people like us, I guess, and many, many other agencies and some very smart people who own businesses themselves. They're doing a lot of this kind of stuff to basically get ahead of you and to make things so much more hard for you to catch up because they've got the time and they're getting paid a lot of money to do it. So SEO is a very hard game to play. The first thing to do, get on that Google My Business thing. Google My Business is like that untouched gem that is free and easy to use, and you don't have to worry about it. You can post things in there at your leisure. Just make sure all your stuff is up to date. But SEO and Google Ads are a little bit more complicated. Now, I'm not going to go into the Google Ads platform here because it is way too complicated to just do in the next 10 minutes. And I'd like to also give you guys a chance to ask some questions. If you've got any questions about the platforms we looked at, so whether those platforms were WordPress that we had a look at earlier. If you want to have a particular kind of website, you go, hey, have I made a mistake by using this particular kind of website? Or I've been paying someone to help me with my SEO and I'm not seeing any results. If you've got a question like that, please bring it forward. But most importantly, if you're a small business and you haven't been able to get yourself online because you think it's too hard or it's too difficult, I'd love to hear your questions on that to give you some, I guess, some shortcuts to get you there that little bit quicker. Because it is, if you haven't grown up with the internet now, even though I'm in my mid 40s, I know I don't look it, right? Moisturizer. It's all it's easy for me who's always grown up around computers. I was building websites when websites were barely known. So it's very easy for me, but I understand for everybody else, it's not that simple. So I just want to make sure that you're able to ask those questions. And if not, I know that the team at Business Station will be sending out the recording of this particular webinar and giving you the chance to ask any questions and reply. And I know that they'll pass those through to me. I'm more than happy to connect with you. Alternatively, the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program is open to small businesses of under 20 employees in Queensland, Western Australia, and the Northern Territory. And it gives you subsidised access to one-to-one help with people like myself. And we've got tons of amazing advisors across Queensland, Northern Territory, and Western Australia. So if you've got questions, you want to ask someone who's local, who has some local knowledge of your particular area, you've got that option as well. Though we are dealing with people right across Australia. I have clients I deal with in Western Australia and in Queensland as well, and a ton of them in the Northern Territory. So we cover off a bunch of different things, whether your problems are in data security and online privacy, particularly cybersecurity. We've got people who can specialize in that. If you are wanting to learn to build a website, if you're wanting some information out selling online, e-commerce, we've got people who are specialists in Shopify, WooCommerce, all those platforms as well. And then there's small business systems, like things like your Outlook and your G Suite, and using email and using things like ActiveCampaign to automate emails. We'll be looking at those next week as well. So please get onto businessstation.com.au, where the links are through to all those different events and all those different webinars, and the ability for you to then register for that low cost and very high quality advisory service with a lot of different advisors like myself, and tons more that you're going to see in this series as well. So I'm not seeing any questions coming through, which is making me feel great. Oh, wait a minute, I have got some. I've got one from Tash, who has a clinic room in a leisure centre. When she puts a room number and building number into Google Maps, clients get directed to the room in a way that gets them really lost. How do I create a link that has latitude and longitude specifically so that people come to me in the correct way instead of the back way to the whole leisure complex? I think the best way to do it, Tash, is to just explain in your profiles of everywhere you are and where the entrance is. So even though they're going to look for where it is, if they did a quick Google search, they'll see what the answer is. So making sure that's really clear in the description on your Facebook profile, really clear in the description on your Google My Business profile as well. So the minute they look you up in Google and they see that, they'll be able to go, there it is. I can see where I'm meant to go. And then over time, hopefully then Google Maps is going to learn how to redirect people to the right part of the leisure complex. So it does actually learn those things. And also encouraging people that if they use Google Maps, quite often what it'll do, it'll ask them to rate what those directions were like. If they say, look, the directions are crap because it took me to the wrong place, Google Maps will learn over time how to go into the correct place. So putting a specific latitude and longitude isn't going to really work that well. But Google are rolling out some more features that allow people to be able to have maps of inside buildings, shopping centers, leisure centers, all that kind of thing. So those kind of things are coming to Google. They're just taking a little longer to roll out because obviously Google cops a lot on privacy. And so mapping an inside of where we work and live is a little bit hard. Lisa, who asked, if I can suggest any free or cheap software to give SEO reports and tasks for us, like we show for Ali AI. Ali AI is it's not cheap. We pay a lot for it because SEO is a big part of our business, obviously. But to get the basics going, you can use things like SEMrush, SEM for Mary, Rush. I can get you started. There's one called SpyFu, which is SPYFU, which can also help to get some of those kind of, it gives you an idea of the competitive nature of yourself and those who do the same thing as you. So they're really good for starting that process as well. And there's another system that we also use interchangeably. It doesn't give us the tasks, but it does give us a really solid report we can use called SEOsitecheck.com. So just as it says, SEOsitecheck.com. And that's a really good one to be using to get the basic ideas around the things you may need to do to increase your SEO. Some of it will be very technical, and I wouldn't expect everyone to understand how to address those things. But in terms of some of those basic tasks of what to do with headings on the page that it's scanning, and what to do with whether your writing has too much or not enough, whether your meta tags are right, it does give you a free version of that. So that's worth having a check out as well. Got a question from asking if we can easily sell our product in Facebook and convert our Facebook business page as an e-commerce platform. That's a really great question. So right now in America, they're starting to build out Facebook as a place to actually sell. So you don't have to get a Shopify account or WooCommerce or BigCommerce or any of those. You can sell straight from Facebook. That is going to come to Australia once they sort out the payments system issues that they got here in Australia and the banking laws. So that will come. It's not going to happen in the next 3 months though. It will come out in a very staged approach. The best way to use the shopping platform on Facebook is to use something like Shopify, which will allow you to then instantly put all your products in from Shopify into your Facebook page. And then that links then the product of Facebook will then go straight to your Shopify page. There's also a setup for WooCommerce if you're using that particular platform within WordPress that will do exactly the same thing. In fact, they'll even connect you through to Instagram if you've been approved for Instagram shopping access. And then you've got the option too for BigCommerce, and just about every e-commerce platform has a way of linking your online shop on your website through to the Facebook shopping tools as well. I've got a question here as well. Can you add multiple address locations to Weebly? That is, I do not know. I have no idea whether you can add multiple address locations. I'm guessing if you are at the point where you've got multiple locations you want to take people to and you're selling products from multiple different physical locations, it's probably best if you had multiple different installations of Weebly. You can still use your Square account on multiple Weebly accounts. But then putting the multiple locations and then crediting back to multiple different Square accounts, depending on those locations, that would probably be a little bit too complex for a very simple web platform. Let me see, is there, what's the best platform to set up a basic e-commerce website myself with no experience? I would always say that the self-hosted platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce are the easiest place to start from, because they have the themes, they have the hosting, they have all the tools, and the connection through the payment platforms. They've got their own payment platform on Shopify, for instance, that you don't have to then set up external stuff from PayPal. That said, it can get expensive. So there are lower versions of Shopify which allow you to go from as little as $29 US per month. Now, a dollar has bounced back slightly, but still not great. After that, it's $79. So you're starting to get really quite high in there. There is a much cheaper version of Shopify called Shopify Lite, and it runs at, I think it's $9 US a month. Now, which sounds ridiculous, I know, ridiculously low, but it is very limited. So you're not getting a Shopify shop, but it does connect through to Facebook. So that's one of the easiest ways to get a shop on the Facebook for the lowest amount of money. And you can also embed each one of your products, like embed code like you get from, say, Facebook. You can embed your products into your website. So if you're using a Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, any kind of website, you can embed your products in there. So quite often we get asked by clients for an easy way to add a shop to their website. It's not going to cost a lot of money. That's usually what we'll push them to, is Shopify Lite. So it's Shopify, then Lite. Probably the easiest way to do it if you don't want to go and then build a separate website or you've got one already yourself. I think that might be it. We've hit right on to 1:30. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day and your week, especially on a Friday. We've got a public holiday here on Monday. I know that Queensland does as well. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of time off. Thank you so much for being so interactive as well with your questions. It's challenging when you get questions you can't always answer. If you've got more questions and you'd like to get in touch with me, please do that through the feedback will come back about this particular webinar, and you'll also get an opportunity to see the recording again. So please reply to that. I know the team at Business Station in Gosnells will be more than happy to pass that back to me, and I can get in touch with you and answer those questions hopefully for you. Just remember, businessstation.com.au is where you get to all these things. So all your events, connecting with the advisors, all that stuff. So thank you so much and have a fantastic weekend. Goodbye.